What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Okay, so the bill passed, and we're going to talk a little bit about the government shutdown. We've averted a government shutdown. They've kicked the can down the road for another couple of months, and then they're going to have to vote on these appropriations bills. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification, and then click all. By clicking all, you'll get notified anytime we post a video. We do daily videos here, so by clicking the bell notification and clicking all, you should be getting updated every day. And just a reminder, thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter and Threads, you can at the TEC Show Live.
Congress has sent a bill to avoid a partial government shutdown to President Biden's desk.
Lawmakers passed the short-term funding measure with bipartisan support yesterday. The legislation sets 2 new government shutdown deadlines. It funds some agencies through March 1st and others through March 8th. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer celebrated both sides working together to move the bill over the finish line. But in the House, many conservatives opposed the stopgap measure. Speaker Mike Johnson had to rely on Democratic votes to keep the government open.
CBS News congressional correspondent Scott McFarland joins us now. Scott, this is a pause button, but it's not a solution. So what do lawmakers need to do between now and March to keep the government open?
Hey, Lana, all that time, all that sound and all that fury has simply bought Congress 6 more weeks.
Right.
This is just until early March. They have to get through this again, try to get over this hurdle again, and fund the government through 2024. There have been behind-the-scenes negotiations about how to get a full year's worth of spending approved and stop all this uncertainty and all this disruption for contractors, federal workers, and military families. But over the past few days, a certain dynamic has become clear, and I think it's bigger than just this deadline. Congress through 2024, perhaps right through Election Day, may have to function now outside their own rules. They have been passing these short-term deadline bills just to keep things open outside of their normal protocols. They don't go through the traditional committees, through the traditional process, because there'd be too many Republicans in the majority who would stop it. So they're kind of working outside normal protocols. They may have to continue doing that to function as a U.S. House and do anything difficult, do anything bipartisan or anything controversial. Not only does that include, Elaine, these spending bills, but ultimately could impact Ukraine and Israel aid, too.
I wonder, Scott, is House Speaker Mike Johnson at risk at all of getting ousted like his predecessor, Kevin McCarthy, for relying on Democrats to get this funding bill passed?
Now, the criticism's coming and the criticism's there. For now, it's isolated to a few members of his majority who don't like that he's working with Democrats. He seems to have no choice but work with Democrats to keep things open in Washington. But for now, it's isolated. But there's an underlying dynamic there, too, which is important. There's only a margin of error that's so thin, it's hard to see. I mean, he can lose just 1 or 2 votes on anything and get it passed. He's getting some deference from his fellow Republicans because things are so difficult. But also, Lana, that makes his margin for error pretty narrow, too.
Yeah, and Scott, all of this is happening while the White House has also been pushing Congress to pass a national security package, including funding for Ukraine, Israel, and border security. So what's the status of talks on any of those issues right now?
And what happened to keep the government open this week, Lana, is a real big storm cloud. It's almost metaphorical. You can see a bigger storm is coming. To get Ukraine aid passed right now, Congress says you have to get a new border security bill passed, too. And the latter is exceptionally difficult. There's a reason why it only happens once every generation. It's a really tricky issue to navigate. That's going to prolong the debate over Ukraine aid, too, and the administration and the White House told members of Congress behind closed doors this week they're out of time. The money's needed now, which is going to make the next few weeks particularly important. And Lana and Elaine, I expect the U.S. Senate to put something on paper to show that is a possible way of becoming law as early as midweek next week.
Before we let you go, Scott, I'm wondering about the dynamics within the Republicans there on Capitol Hill, given what you spelled out and some of the clearly lingering tensions that there are. Is it clear how they will come together, if they will be able to come together moving forward here?
It's really tricky in particular, Elaine, because every one of them seems to have veto power. If your majority can cast only 1 or 2 votes aside, every 1 or 2 people in the House Republican Conference can stop anything the party wants to do. That type of power in everybody's hands can really muddy the waters. We've seen that over the past few months. I expect to see that in droves between now and November.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. They averted this government shutdown. So if you guys haven't been following this, about 10 days ago, you had the Speaker Johnson, as well as the leader in the Senate, Leader Schumer. They got together over the weekend and they were able to hash out a deal, a top line number of about $1.6 trillion. And so now they have the top line number. So they know how much the budget will be for 2024. And so now they're going to need to figure out where is all the money going. So they have these appropriations bills that they need to vote on. The Senate, I think at this point, there are about 7 or 8 appropriations bills that have gone to the Senate. So they've been signed off by the House, they've been approved by the House, and they've gone to the Senate, but the Senate hasn't voted on them yet. So the Senate needs to vote on those, as well as you have about 4 more appropriations bills that they have not voted on yet. So they have until March now. So that whole deadline of January 19th, that's no longer here, as well as the deadline February 1st or the first week of February, that is not in play anymore. So we're going to kick the can down the road until March. In March, they need to have these bills, the appropriations bills, they need to have those voted on, and then they can move forward. What I think we'll see happen, I think in March, they're still not going to be able to vote on these appropriations bills. And I think what they'll probably end up doing is doing another continued resolution through the end of the year and keep all the levels. So as far as all the different agencies, how much money they're receiving, keep them pretty much the same. And then we're going to have to take this up in September. So the end of September, then they're going to have to get the budget for 2025. And so that's when we'll see them revisit this. But at that point, since it's going to be so close to an election, they're not going to want to move on a budget for 2025. So what are they going to do? Do another continuing resolution until December. Then we'll be in a lame duck Congress at that time. Then they can try to figure out what they're going to do when it comes to a budget. But that's what I think is going to happen. I still don't think they're going to be able to vote on these appropriations bills. I think the main key that they were focused on is the top line number. Now that they have the top line number, they can kind of just say, okay, we're not going to move forward with appropriations bills, separate bills. We're just going to say, okay, keep the levels at about the same. As long as we don't go over that 1.6 trillion, then we're fine. So that's what I'm anticipating seeing in the next couple of months, because I still don't, you have some of these appropriations bills where they want to make deep cuts in certain agencies. They're not going to do that, especially during an election year. They're not going to want to do that. They might talk. You might have some lawmakers saying, yes, we need to make these cuts, but they don't want their name on it if it's a cut to Social Security or a cut to some of these other vital programs. They don't want to make that call. And so I think a continued resolution gives them the opportunity to kind of back away and say, okay, they've already agreed on the top line number, so I don't want to make any waves by making these cuts, and you know it's coming from me because I'll be voting for it or against it. And then they'll just continue with the same level of spending that we saw in 2023. So that's where I think it's going when it comes down to it. Now, understand this, 2023 spending was 2022 spending. So they're basically just doing these continued resolutions, and they're not increasing spending at all, unless you want to talk about the defense spending. That's a whole different topic. But they're not increasing spending when it comes to the general fund. They're just saying, okay, we're going to keep the same spending levels that we saw the year prior. And so that's what we'll probably see when it comes to 2024. And then moving forward in 2025, we'll just have to see where they go with that. I just wanted to give you guys this quick little update. I'm doing this early in the morning just so you guys know what's going on when it comes to a government shutdown. They have averted it, so that's good. So we don't have to worry about people not being able to work, people being laid off, and really impacting our economy. So we can move forward and see what they do in March. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.